They weren't the first to do this. It was Blake Lively, it was Ryan Reynolds. This was their strategy. And now they kind of want to put the genie back in the bottle. But guess what? The genie does not want to go back in the bottle.
Somebody revealed a source that says he had quite an experience demanding his makeup artist show up or get fired. I'll share that story for you.
No one knew who he was beforehand. Everyone knows who he is now. If he is a smart sociopath, he'll work that to his advantage.
Ryan Reynolds completely lost it after Fox News dragged him for firing a makeup artist, and they did not hold back. They ripped him apart, calling out his tantrum and exposing the ugly truth.
Ryan Reynolds had to do some reshoots for the movie. His makeup artist was out of the country working. Ryan Reynolds threatened to fire the makeup artist off the rest of the film and the reshoots they had to do, and also said, if you don't come back and do my makeup for these reshoots, you will never work in Hollywood again.
And honestly, they had a point. Who does he think he is, throwing people off set just because he can't keep his emotions in check? For years, Ryan's played up this image of the sarcastic, lovable prankster, but Fox News just blew that illusion to pieces. Turns out, behind the jokes and charm, he's just another egotistical Hollywood control freak who thinks he can do whatever he wants. And let's be real, his behavior is looking eerily similar to Blake Lively's reputation for being just as demanding and calculating.
Blake Lively, her brand, Ryan Reynolds' brand, have totally been tarnished by this because the world now sees them for who they are. They cannot act their way out of this.
Reynolds isn't some goofy, harmless Deadpool wannabe. Nope. He's out here pulling power moves, firing people left and right, and acting like he owns the industry. Oh, you think that was bad? Just wait until you hear about the time Ryan Reynolds threw a full-blown Hollywood meltdown over a makeup artist. This wasn't just a bad mood. This was straight-up career-ending behavior because someone had the nerve to be unavailable for a reshoot. That's right. We're talking an absolute dictator-style tantrum over some foundation and powder.
So gross and weird and manipulative, even if it's true. It's so just... This movie somehow was a magnet for awful people.
Fox News and the Kennedy Saves the World podcast spilled all the details, and it is not a good look for Ryan. According to an insider from the Deadpool set, one of Ryan's personal makeup artists couldn't make it to a reshoot. Why? Because they were literally out of the country, working on another job, like any normal person in the industry. But instead of, hiring one of the thousands of talented makeup artists in Hollywood, Ryan flipped out. And here's the kicker. He reportedly told them straight up, if you don't come back, you will never work in Hollywood again. Let that sink in. Over a makeup brush and some powder, this man tried to end someone's entire career. Oh, I must have missed the memo. When did Ryan Reynolds become a studio executive? Since when does he have the power to blacklist someone from an entire industry over a scheduling conflict? Who gave this man that level of control? The wildest part? Fox executives weren't even on board with it. But guess what? They had no choice but to play along because Reynolds had already seized full control of the movie. Let that sink in. This guy was throwing career-ending threats over some contour and setting powder. The sheer ego it takes to pull something like that. But honestly, are we even shocked? This is textbook Ryan Reynolds. For years, he's sold himself as the laid-back, self-deprecating funny guy. But behind the scenes, he's running Hollywood like some power-hungry dictator. And if you need more proof, just look at what went down with the Deadpool franchise itself. Remember Tim Miller, the guy who literally directed the first Deadpool and helped bring the whole vision to life? Yeah, he mysteriously didn't make it to Deadpool 2. Why? Because Reynolds wanted absolute control over every inch of the production. Even Tim later admitted, Ryan wanted full control, and I wasn't willing to fight every single decision. Translation? Reynolds turned into a tantrum-throwing man-child who refused to compromise and straight-up bullied the original director out of his own movie. And don't think for a second that Ryan Reynolds only pulls this power trip on makeup artists and directors. Nope, he goes after his own co-stars too. If you cross him, he doesn't just move on. He makes sure you're erased. Just ask Morena Baccarin, the actual lead actress from Deadpool. In the first movie, she was Wade Wilson's entire love interest. By Deadpool 2, she was barely there, practically an afterthought. And why? Because she reportedly had a disagreement with Reynolds on set. And let's just say, Ryan Reynolds does not handle disagreements like a professional. Instead of moving on like a grown adult, he went full petty mode. Morena got iced out of press events, shut out from promotional tours, and, get this, completely excluded from all premiere group photos. If you only looked at the red carpet, you'd think she wasn't even in the movie. But this is what power-drunk Reynolds does. He picks fights, then wipes out anyone who dares to challenge him. And it's not just Morena. TJ Miller, who played Weasel in Deadpool, also came forward about Ryan's nasty behavior. And keep in mind, TJ Miller is a comedian. If anyone could take a joke, it's him. But even he admitted that Reynolds was straight up mean to him on set, and not in a joking way. His exact words, "He was weirdly mean to me. Not as a joke, just genuinely rude." Majin being so unbearable that even comedians, people who make a living off of roasting each other, think you're out of line. According to TJ Miller, Ryan Reynolds didn't just have a bad attitude. He actively belittled him in front of the crew, constantly reminding him that he was just a side character, not the star. Talk about an ego trip. And here's the craziest part. Ryan doesn't even try to hide his control issues. He's been exposed multiple times, and not just on Deadpool. Let's talk about Rebecca Ferguson, who once revealed she had a horrible experience working with an insecure, angry actor while filming a movie. She never named names, but let's do some quick detective work. The movie? Life, 2017. Her co-stars? Ryan Reynolds and Jake Gyllenhaal. And since Jake is still out here minding his business, who does that leave? Yep, all eyes are on Ryan as the angry little man she was talking about. And if that wasn't bad enough, Ferguson said this mystery actor made her so uncomfortable that she flat out refused to act directly with him. Instead, she demanded to act toward a tennis ball rather than even look at him. Imagine being so toxic that your own co-star would rather perform with an inanimate object than deal with you on set. That's a whole new level of insufferable. But wait, it gets worse. After she spoke out, Ferguson started receiving calls from colleagues warning her that she had gone too far. Sounds an awful lot like someone, cough Ryan cough, didn't like being exposed and sent people to do some damage control. Wait, so telling the truth is going too far? Now? All Rebecca Ferguson did was speak up about a toxic work environment, and suddenly Hollywood was acting like she committed a crime. This is exactly how the industry protects its biggest offenders, shutting down the people who dare to call out bad behavior while letting powerful actors like Ryan Reynolds keep doing whatever they want. No one wants to shake things up, so the worst of the worst get away with everything. Meanwhile, Ryan? He's out here throwing tantrums, treating people like dirt, and facing zero consequences. And it's not just a few coworkers here and there. Just take a look at Jake Gyllenhaal. These two were practically attached at the hip for a while, always doing interviews together, cracking jokes, playing up their Hollywood bromance. But now? That friendship is dead and buried. Recently, when someone asked Jake about Reynolds, his whole demeanor changed. He completely shut down, refused to say a single word, and looked straight up irritated. The interviewer pushed for a response, but all Jake gave was a cold, "I have nothing to say about him." That's not just "we lost touch" energy. That's not a casual Hollywood fallout. That is someone who is 100% done with whatever mess Reynolds put him through. And honestly, who can blame Jake for walking away? At this point, it's painfully obvious. Ryan Reynolds is not the quirky, lovable, funny guy he pretends to be. Nope. He's just another power-hungry Hollywood narcissist with zero patience, zero humility, and an ego so massive that no one is allowed to challenge it. Look at the pattern. It's undeniable. Every single person who's worked with him and dared to speak up has described him the same way: controlling, rude, insecure. From makeup artists to co-stars, directors to his own ex-wives, Ryan has left a trail of people fed up with his antics. He isn't Hollywood's nice guy. He isn't the self-deprecating, relatable dude he plays on social media. He's a self-absorbed, power-obsessed bully. And now, people are finally seeing the truth. Even Jake Gyllenhaal, who once shared Hollywood's favorite bromance with Ryan, laughing on talk shows, cracking inside jokes, acting like two peas in a pod, wants nothing to do with him anymore. And that silence? It speaks volumes. But then Life, 2017, happened, and suddenly, Jake Gyllenhaal wanted nothing to do with Ryan Reynolds. And when I say nothing, I mean zero interaction, zero acknowledgement, zero interest in even pretending they were ever friends. That kind of complete shutout doesn't happen over some petty disagreement. Something major must have gone down. And it wasn't just rumors. Jake made it painfully clear. When asked about Reynolds, his reaction was ice cold. His face dropped, his whole energy shifted, and he flatly said, "I have nothing to say about him." No fake Hollywood friendliness, no awkward laughs, just straight up rejection. And let's be real, Jake Gyllenhaal isn't some drama-chasing celebrity. This is the same guy who stayed completely silent when Taylor Swift dragged him for 10 whole minutes in a song. He didn't flinch, didn't comment, didn't engage. But with Ryan, he couldn't even fake a polite response. The whispers around Hollywood all say the exact same thing. Reynolds is insufferable, jealous, and toxic. And it looks like Gyllenhaal finally saw through the fake nice guy act and walked away for good. And if there's one thing Ryan Reynolds hates more than not being the center of attention, it's being called out for being unfunny. Let's get one thing straight. His entire career is built on sarcasm. But here's the truth. Sarcasm isn't a personality, and it definitely isn't real comedy. Reynolds isn't some comedic genius. He's just a guy who figured out that if he delivers a line in a deadpan voice with a smirk, people assume he's funny. But guess what? More and more people who've worked with him aren't buying it anymore. And one of the biggest names to expose him? TJ Miller, a real comedian, a guy who actually knows what funny is. And what did he say about Reynolds? He didn't brush it off as, "Oh, Ryan's just a prankster," or "He jokes too much." Nope. He straight up said that Reynolds doesn't make jokes to entertain. He does it to tear people down. According to TJ, Ryan makes fun of people not to be funny, but to belittle them. That's not comedy. That's just being a condescending jerk. And it doesn't stop there. Even Scarlett Johansson, his own ex-wife, basically exposed him for being the exact same way in their relationship. She called him passive-aggressively jealous, which, let's be real, is just a polite way of saying insecure, controlling, and unbearable. And look at the pattern. He went from being married to Scarlett Johansson straight into a relationship with Blake Lively. It doesn't take a genius to figure out what happened there. Scarlett's career was skyrocketing, while Ryan's was floundering. His fragile little ego clearly couldn't handle being with a woman whose success completely overshadowed his own. So what did he do? Moved on immediately to someone whose career wouldn't threaten his. And speaking of bruised egos, let's talk about Quentin Tarantino. One of the most respected filmmakers in Hollywood absolutely roasted Ryan Reynolds and his endless stream of Netflix cash grabs. And he didn't just lightly shade him, he flat out dismissed his entire career. Tarantino called out how Reynolds keeps making $50 million here, $50 million there on some random movies, then straight up said, "I don't even know what those movies are. Have you seen them?" Translation? Ryan is pumping out forgettable trash movies that nobody actually cares about. And just when you thought that was the biggest insult, Gerard Butler came through with the knockout punch. When asked about Ryan Reynolds' movie Free Guy, Butler didn't even pretend to know what it was. He straight up said, "I don't know what that is. I don't watch his movies." Imagine spending decades in Hollywood, constantly promoting yourself, acting like you're the biggest name in the industry, only for major actors to openly admit they don't even acknowledge your work. If that's not humiliating, I don't know what is. And it's not just actors calling him out, it's directors too. Chris Columbus, the legendary filmmaker who gave us Home Alone and Harry Potter, publicly shredded Reynolds for trying to ruin a classic movie. Ryan thought it would be a brilliant idea to make a stoner version of Home Alone called Stoned Alone. Yes, that was actually a thing. He pitched it, and Chris Columbus, who actually respects filmmaking, shut it down immediately. His exact words? "It's an insult to cinema." And that's exactly why so many Hollywood actors and filmmakers have stopped even acknowledging him. Be honest, when's the last time you saw a respected director say they wanted to work with Ryan Reynolds? When's the last time a major actor not contractually obligated to praise him actually did? You haven't. Because most of Hollywood has already figured out what the rest of the world is just now starting to realize. Ryan Reynolds is an insecure, ego-driven nightmare who burns every bridge he crosses. The thing about Ryan Reynolds, people are finally starting to see through the act. And let's be real, even his own fans are getting tired of it. That sarcastic humor that once felt witty and charming, now it just comes off as mean-spirited and exhausting. His non-stop need to control every project he touches, it's starting to look less like creative passion and more like a desperate obsession with power. And that whole nice guy routine he's been selling for years, it's falling apart in real time. Let's be honest, he's got the energy of that guy who hooked up with your high school girlfriend and thought he was the main character for it. At this point, Ryan Reynolds isn't just losing friends in Hollywood, he's losing the public's goodwill. And when the only people left defending you are paid PR firms and a handful of die-hard fanboys, you know your fake Hollywood empire is on its last legs. Scarlett Johansson tried to warn everyone, but nobody listened. She said it, plain and simple. Ryan Reynolds is a jealous, insecure control freak. And if you know anything about Scarlett, you know she doesn't stir up drama for no reason. So when she made that very specific statement, when someone is passive-aggressively jealous, it shows insecurity, she wasn't just making a general observation. She was talking about Ryan. Worst part? He didn't just leave Scarlett, he upgraded himself to Blake Lively before the divorce was even final. Let's not sugarcoat this. Ryan met Blake on the set of Green Lantern while he was still married, and by the time the ink on his divorce papers was dry, they were already together. This man wasted zero time moving on, almost like he had Blake lined up as a backup plan the entire time. And honestly, it makes perfect sense. Blake Lively is exactly the type of woman a fragile, insecure man like Ryan Reynolds would run to after getting humiliated by a powerhouse like Scarlett Johansson. Think about it. Scarlett was an A-list, respected, independent actress. Blake? A CW star still trying to break into serious Hollywood roles? You think Ryan didn't notice that and think, oh, finally, a woman who won't overshadow me? This man was never going to survive in a marriage where he wasn't the star. And it's not just Scarlett. His other ex, Alanis Morissette, also called him out for being a jealous, insecure mess. Let's not forget, this man was engaged to Alanis for 3 years, only to randomly dump her out of nowhere. And what did Alanis do? She went and dropped an entire album, Flavors of Entanglement, inspired by their breakup. One of the biggest lyrics? If I just say it's true, that I'm unbelievably insecure, really broken, devastated, then I can move through it. Oh, look, there's that word again. Insecure. When two exes, one a Hollywood superstar and the other a Grammy-winning musician, are both saying the exact same thing about a guy, maybe, just maybe, he's actually the problem. And now, the perfect wife that Ryan left Scarlett for, Blake Lively, is officially getting dragged into his PR mess too. For years, Blake and Ryan have been running this exhausting PR campaign, acting like they have the quirkiest, cutest, most perfect marriage in Hollywood. Every time they're in the news, it's because one of them posted some forced, painfully unfunny joke about the other on Instagram, like a couple of middle schoolers desperate for attention. And for years, people ate it up. But now, people are finally seeing through it. Here's the thing. No genuinely happy couple feels the need to constantly prove how in love they are. And the fact that every single time one of them has a scandal or bad press, they suddenly start love-bombing the internet with cutesy posts? Yeah, that's not natural. That's carefully calculated damage control. And let's not ignore the massive elephant in the room. Blake's own legal battle with Justin Baldoni. This woman has been in and out of court for months over one of the messiest Hollywood lawsuits in years. And now, Fox News and Hollywood insiders are coming for Ryan separately. They're not even being taken down as a power couple. They're individually crumbling, all on their own. And let's be real. Did Ryan Reynolds use Blake Lively to fix his image after his failed marriage with Scarlett Johansson? Because let's not forget, that whole perfect husband act didn't start until he got with Blake. All of a sudden, he was the funny husband, the quirky guy with the cute marriage, flooding Instagram with staged jokes and forced banter. It's almost like he needed a relationship that was easier, more controlled, so he could rebuild his brand. But now, with Hollywood turning on him, what happens to Blake? Because let's be honest, Blake Lively's career has never been strong enough to survive on its own. She's been riding the wave of their power couple branding for years. But if Ryan's image collapses, what happens to her? And make no mistake, his reputation is falling apart. Hollywood has officially stopped protecting him. Fox News, of all places, just exposed him for being a toxic, controlling nightmare on set. Directors, co-stars, and even his exes have all come forward, calling him out for his insane ego, his obsession with control, and his straight-up nasty attitude. And here's the funniest part. He spent his entire career pretending to be the funny guy that everyone adored. And now, even that persona is falling apart. His so-called comedy is getting re-examined, and guess what? People are finally realizing he's not actually funny. He's just an insecure man who tears others down to mask his own flaws. And those who've worked with him? They've been saying it for years. Ryan Reynolds isn't the effortlessly funny, laid-back guy he pretends to be. In real life, he's not funny at all. He's serious, calculated, and obsessed with control. Now, Hollywood actors are refusing to work with him. Directors are calling him out. His own best friend, Jake Gyllenhaal, won't even speak about him. And his exes? They've been sounding the alarm for years. At this point, Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively aren't Hollywood's perfect couple. They're Hollywood's biggest PR scam. And the cracks? They're finally starting to show. Ryan Reynolds' fake nice guy act is crumbling, and Hollywood is done with his ego, tantrums, and toxic behavior. Subscribe for more Hollywood exposés, because in this industry, the truth always comes out. And when it does, no amount of sarcasm can save you.